Welcome back at the forefront with us this morning is Congressman Edgar Erice. Good morning, Kong Egay.
Good morning.
All
Good
right,
morning sa inyong George. Good morning.
sir. Unahin na natin itong looming leadership change dyan sa House of Representatives. Have you heard about that? Or can you confirm na magkakaroon nga ng leadership change dyan sa...
Yes, we've heard about that last night. We've heard that there will be a change of leadership today, but it will not affect the minority because it's an event for the majority party.
Paano niyo po nalaman, Kong, na magkakaroon ng leadership change?
Well, may mga nakausap lang ako na mga congressman na nasabi nga na by today bababa si Speaker Romualdez and si Congressman Faustino Bogie D ang
Okay, but the minority, hindi na kayo magno-nominate ng possible replacement.
hindi na. We'll just remain in the minority kasi ano lang naman kami, we are only 29.
All right. So, apart from Congressman Bogie D po, may mga ibang pangalan pa kasing na-float before. So, sa tingin nyo ba itong mga pangalan na ito ay ino-nominate din mamaya?
Wala, hindi ko alam. Pero ang pagkakaalam ko na the decision is Congressman Bogie D will be the next speaker.
Sir,
Alam mo naman na malaki ang say ng Malacanang dahil majority, yung supermajority is the ally of the president.
but you know, Congressman, alam naman natin na dapat magkahiwalay, independent ito sa isa't isa, ang House at Malacanang. And for the longest time, although merong mga...
Well, independent in the sense of its work in the legislation, pero in terms of the political agenda, alay sila eh. So, kailangan talagang kahit papano ay may suporta ng Pangulo ang Kongreso sapagkat upang maisukatuparan niya yung kanyang plano, yung development plan niya, kanyang development agenda.
Okay.
He will need support of the House and the Senate at pinakamahalaga na dahil nagmumula ang budget sa House, kailangan ay alay talaga at kakamping-kakamping niya yung Speaker.
But now, kasi ang unang balita po ay mag-file ng leave of absence itong si Speaker Romualdez. Nangyari po ba siya na nag-file siya ng leave of absence o hindi na ito...
Hindi po kasi hindi maliwanag kung pwedeng mag-file ng leave of absence ang isang Speaker kasi ano po yan elected by the majority. Kung mag-file ka, then it will... Parang hindi pa nangyari ang leave of absence.
Should Congressman Faustino D. III replaces Speaker Romualdez, ano po ang expectations ng minority?
Well, we'll just do our job to fiscalize and hopefully na mababago natin yung imahe ng Kongreso na talaga namang nitong mga nakaraang panahon ay bumaba dahil dito sa iskandalo sa flood control projects at iba pang projects, sa mga insertions, sa mga diversions ng pondo, dapat mapag-ingatan ito. Talagang dapat talaga na may malawakang reforma. Kasi hindi po pwedeng business as usual ang Kongreso ngayon. The House is on fire and wala namang makakapigil dito sa apoy na ito kundi kami rin. We have to cleanse our ranks, linisin namin ang aming hanay, at wag kami mag-deny na ang problema ay nanggaling sa amin.
Kong Egay, bilang batikang mambabatas po, can you walk us through what will happen this afternoon?
Well, hindi pa masyadong maliwanag kung paano ang mangyayari sapagkat ang natural process is somebody will nominate the speaker, then yung minority naman will just have to send the message to the speaker that we will retain our positions in the minority.
Mhm.
Ganun lang. So, siguro ganun lang ang mangyayari. The the supermajority will elect the speaker at kami naman we will just abstain because we are in the minority.
Parang viva voce lang po ito, ano? At ilang boto ba ang kailangan para
Palagay ko po dapat yan isa-isa ang pagboto.
isa-isa ang pagboto? All
Opo.
right. So how many votes, sir, ang kailangan para maitalaga o ma-elect na Speaker of the House?
Of course, sa majority o kalahati plus 1. Yan yung dapat talaga. Half of the membership plus 1. So around 150 plus or less than 160. Yan.
Mhm.
314, so yun yung yung 57, 58 vote, 158 o 168 votes yata.
Okay, so marami-rami yan. Pero sabi nyo nga, dahil may supermajority naman, so more or less, kung mag-a-agree sila, ay hindi na mahihirapan itong si Congressman D na ma-elect as bagong Speaker of the House. Now, let's talk about the ongoing budget hearings po, ano? Kayo ba ay may
Yes.
uupo ang budget hearing today?
Yes, we have a budget hearing today for the Department of Public Works and Highways.
Okay.
Yan na yata yung huling department na medyo na-delay sila dahil dito sa problema sa mga skandalo sa flood control.
Nakita nyo po ba? Nakita nyo na po ba yung revised na budget ng DPWH?
Opo, zero budget po ang flood control.
Zero budget for flood control. And kung kayo po ang tatanungin kong Egay, do you think it is right na gawing zero budget ang flood control for 2026?
Hindi po.
Bakit po?
I think it's a knee-jerk reaction.
Mhm.
Knee-jerk reaction. Alam niyo naman po, bakit naman magsasakripisyo yung mga lugar na talaga namang tama ang ginagawa? At isasakripisyo yung pag-unlad nila, yung pagbigay ng solusyon sa mga problema sa mga lugar nila dahil lamang sa may mga kalokohan na ginawa yung iba.
Mhm.
Why would they suffer? Why would they suffer? For example, I've been proposing that yung C3 sa may papunta sa pier, iangat yung kalsada at iangat yung release ng tren at ayusin yung drainage facilities. Dahil dito, hindi may magagawa ito. Ano po ibig sabihin nito? Bilyon-bilyon ang mawawala sa mga negosyo na tuwing uulan, babaha. Hindi na makakaraan yung mga trailers, yung mga trucks dahil sa malalim masyado ang baha.
Opo. So, are we expecting the minority to object to this budget proposal ng DPWH?
I will object to the proposal to zero the flood control program. Dapat po siguro ay ayusin nilang mabuti kung ano yung tama, yun ipagpatuloy. At yun namang mali, yun ang alam nyo, ang katwiran nila, hindi pa tapos yung 2025 budget. Marami pang mga flood control program na ini-implement. Tapusin na lang muna yun. Ang problema, marami doon kalokohan. Ibig sabihin, yung mga kalokohan, tatapusin mo, yung mga matitino ay hindi mo bibigyan ng pondo. Pangalawa, na for example, in my district, hindi ako ang dating congressman, so there are 17 projects na Diskaya companies. Diskaya companies. So dahil sa nangyari, huminto. Hindi pa tapos. At natural, hindi na ipagpapatuloy yan. Nakatiwangwang yan. So yan yung mga problema na dapat harapin ng DPWH. Anong gagawin nila? Maghihirap yung mga mamamayan dahil dito sa nangyaring ito, dahil sa mga kalokohan na ito. At alam mo, 25% hinukay. 25% ang accomplishment, hinukay,
Nakatiwangwang na.
Dahil tumakbo na yung mga diskaya at hindi na sila po pwede, cancel na yung kanilang mga kumpanya. Paano yun?
Exactly.
What will happen with these projects? Yung mga mamamayan ang magsasuffer.
So the proposal, your proposal is, what should be done?
Well, sa tingin ko, yung mga importante na, for example, yung for the last 10 years, we are not dredging waterways, the mga natural waterways dito sa Metro Manila. Kaya yan yung pangunahing dahilan ng baha. Dahil kung hukayin mo yung mga waterways, I'm sure, you can get as much as 100 million tons of garbage and silt. So, kung zero yan, edi madadagdagan ba yan? Edi walang pagbabago. Next year, maghihirap pa rin tayo. At magtuloy-tuloy ang galit ng mamamayan.
Opo, pero hindi ba kaya ng LGU lang yan, Kong? Itong
Hindi
binabanggit
nila
mo,
kaya.
dredging, etc.
Hindi. Talagang ano yan. Ang talagang may control niyan, dapat yung Metro Manila Development Authority. Pero MMDA, wala namang pondo for dredging. At wala naman silang absorptive capacity para ipatupad yung dredging sa lahat ng waterways dito sa Metro Manila.
Okay.
At ang DPWH naman ay walang flood control funds for 2026.
So anong ending nun? Ano bang nakikita mo nga?
Pagdating ng tagulan, sisihan na naman yan.
So you're proposing that the DPWH should identify high impact and certain flood control projects na pwede pa rin namang i-implement.
Yes.
Pero paano yung identification process, Congressman?
Yun ang challenge kasi nga we have to pass. Maybe ang pwede nilang gawin siguro habang ginagawa nila yung pondo na ito ay siguro maybe we can pass a supplemental budget later pagkatapos nilang pag-aralan.
Pero hindi ba nakakatakot din yung supplemental budget, Congressman? Kung walang...
Hindi, dahil provided that there will be studies, plans, and programs that will be submitted by the Department of Public Works. Hindi kasi pwedeng business as usual ang gobyerno patungkol dito sa flood control, especially in Metro Manila. Kasi sa Metro Manila, yung 50%, more than 50% of the GDP comes from Metro Manila. Kung ganyan ang mangyayari, talagang maapektuhan ang ekonomiya.
Kumbaga
alam mo, ngayon pa, ito pa, isa pang problema natin. Lahat ng mga bangko ngayon, ininto na sinuspindi na yung pagbibigay ng pautang o loans sa mga contractors, government contractors, suppliers. So dahil dito, lalong mawawalan tiwala yung mga financing institutions sa government contracts at maraming malulugi, maraming mga maliliit na negosyo na umaasa sa mga kontratista ang malulugi at maraming mawawalan ng trabaho.
Oo. May inaay na ho ba kayong amount for the supplemental budget sa flood control kung sakali?
Ay, wala pa po. Kasi nga ang naging pahayag ng Pangulo, zero budget for 2026.
But we should...
I don't think that is a good idea. Kung natatakot ang ating Pangulo na magamit uli ito, talagay ko, pwede namang magsabit na lang sila ng supplemental budget, ayusin na muna kung ano yung mga priority for flood control. Especially in Metro Manila.
Ano po yung...
Metro Manila talaga, it's the showcase of it's the showcase of our country. Biruin niyo naman, kawawang ang Metro Manila, tayo, one of the largest megapolis in the world, pero tayo ang pinakakawawang in terms of flood.
Kung ano yung mga safety nets na pwede nating ilagay dyan para hindi magamit sa mali yung pinopropose ninyong paglalagay ng supplemental budget for flood control?
Alam mo, magaling naman si Secretary Vince Dizon at I think he has the capability to recruit good people who can supervise and make things happen.
Okay. Kahapon, maiba lang po ako, Kong, no? Kahapon ay pinasa na sa committee level. Tama ba ang budget ng Vice President?
Yes.
Okay. So, what's your reaction? Kasi kayo ang nag-move din po kayo na ipasa na ito, no?
Ang aking para naman yung political tensions hindi naman lumala pa. Wala namang walang contentious issues doon sa OVP budget, napakaliit. Almost 60% yan, mga dati na mga proyekto at 30% yan, personal services. So dapat i-extend na yung interparliamentary courtesy sa Office of the Vice President saka sa Office of the President. Pero dalawa sa minority members nagpahayag na gusto nila magtanong, yung members ng Makabayan lang. So, siyempre, yung kanila yung karapatan, kaya binigay pa rin natin. Pero pagkatapos nilang magsalita, I already moved to terminate the proceedings.
Kung ito bang pagbibigay ng courtesy sa Office of the President at Office of the Vice President, this has been a tradition, over time.
Yes, it has been a long tradition. At wala namang mawawala. Kasi ito sa committee level. Pero pagdating sa plenary, wala nang parliamentary courtesy. We can ask any questions regarding the budget. Yun.
Pero hindi po ba dapat sa simula pa lang binubusisi nyo na sa committee level pa lang nabubusisi ng mabuti itong mga budget kahit ng Office of the President and Office of the Vice President?
Oo, pero para sa akin, yung sinabi ko nga, dito naman sa Office of the Vice President, sa Office of the President, wala namang gaano contentious issues. So, why not extend the courtesy? Kung wala naman talagang Ang tinanong naman, hindi naman yung 2020. Kasi usually, ang tinatanong namin, yung paano ginasta yung previous year at paano gagastusin yung itong next year. Yan yung dapat. Oo. Ang mga questions, karamihan, dun sa mga nakaraan pa, confidential funds. Diba? So, wala namang, hindi naman na sinagot ni Vice President Sara sapagkat nasa Supreme Court pa yung kanyang impeachment. At part of the articles of the impeachment ay ang confidential funds. So, ang prosecution, yung House of Representatives. Kaya naman, logical naman, why would you impart the defense, her defense to the articles of impeachment kung buhay pa yung impeachment?
Oo. So ito pong 903 million peso budget, proposed budget for 2026 ng Office of the Vice President, hindi na ito, for now, hindi pa ito mababawasan or madadagdagan?
Palagay ko, hindi na mababawasan, napakaliit na. At hindi na rin siguro madadagdagan.
Okay, so
hindi naman nag-request ng pagdagdag ang Vice President.
Okay, sige Kong, your final word siguro, ano bang dapat asahan ng publiko today sa House of Representatives and your message to the public as we are expecting a possible leadership change?
We in the minority will just perform our task. Magiging very vigilant kami dahil nakataya dito yung imahe ng whether we are in the minority, yung image ng Kongreso. Alam mo, nung bata ako, yung mga congressman, mga senador, kung hindi simbolo ng karangalan, simbolo ng karunungan. Nalulungkot ako ngayon dahil ang description sa mga congressman, kung hindi buhaya, buitre. Kaya we'll have to do something. The House on fire, kasi yung ICC, alam mo, ang description ko dyan, parang lang yan eh. Kumbaga sa arson investigation.
ICI, sir.
Pero ang kailangan ng House, bombero para patayin yung sunog.
And that is the change of leadership. So thank you, Kong Egay. And later on, analysis on how speakership change will be discussed when At the Forefront. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back at the Forefront. Assistant Professor at the USC Political Science Department, Political Analyst Froilan Calilong. Good morning, Professor Froilan.
Yes. Good morning, Sir George, and good morning to all our televiewers. Thank you for having me.
Well, earlier, kausap natin si Congressman Egay Erice, and he was saying that they are really expecting, the minority is expecting a leadership change sa House of Representatives. Do you think that this will somehow pacify, if not totally eradicate the growing anger of the public sa issue ng flood control?
Well, it depends on what will be the public acceptance and the public perception mainly about what's going to happen because you see, pwede kasing maging matter of appeasement lamang siya, no? Lalong-lalo na kung yung papalit o yung ating incoming na speaker. And I think most likely it will be Congressman D of Isabela. As we know it, is a very good friend also of the outgoing speaker and is also part of the political party of the president and has been a deputy speaker serving dito nga under the auspices of the current speaker. So maaring magkaroon ang publiko ng perception na yes, nagkaroon nga ng pagpapalit in order to just simply appease the public, pero if there is really true leadership change insofar as the legislative agenda is concerned, the oversight is concerned, as well as the power blocks, particularly in the powerful committees is concerned, that is something that we have yet to see, no? And ako, para sa akin, tignan din natin, I think this could be a good start, a fresh start, because we are trying to come up with a reset at the moment, and who knows, baka naman magamit ito ni incoming speaker to turn things around for the better. Although, the public perception may be there na talagang the president really has a direct hand of this leadership change.
But Prof, let us look a step back siguro, ano? Dahil syempre kapag may pagbabago sa liderato ng House, gaano kalaki yung kamay ng palasyo dito? Given that, number one, the current speaker is the cousin of the president.
Yeah.
Paano natin ipapaliwanag to?
Well, I would say, every kind of leadership change, both in the lower house as well as in the upper house, is always a political earthquake. Talagang nagkakaroon ng malalaking pagbabago dyan. Pero I think this one right now, this leadership change in the house, is quite unprecedented to some extent because this was born out of the fact na meron tayo talagang kinakaharap na malaking political crisis at the moment, particularly the flood control crisis. And I think the optics will give us an idea, or at the very least an insight, that the president is trying to project an image that is in control, that is on top of the situation, that he doesn't want these things to go out of hand, that there should be a semblance of stability, at the very least. Kaya maaari niya itong ginagawa at the moment, no? Kasi yung mga nakaraan naman na pagpapalit ng leadership, no, though the president may actually have a say, pero this time around I think talagang very decisive yung pangulo dito dahil pinatawag niya pa mismo sa Malacanang itong outgoing speaker natin para maaring kumbinsihin siya about what could be a better move or a better decision, because I don't think the speaker in his own volition will admonish or will relinquish his position. Hindi niya, tingin ko, gagawin yon kung hindi talaga siya nasabihan ng ating Pangulo. And at the very least, maganda rito yung optics nga na pinapakita that the president is being decisive at the moment dahil nga alam niya kung gaano katindi yung gravity nitong issue na to.
But yes, you're talking about optics, Prof. Pero ang tanong ng taong bayan, ito bang optics na ito ay magtra-translate into actual action? With Speaker Romualdez stepping down, mangangahulugan ba ito na kasama siya sa mga iimbestigahan dito sa flood control scandal na ito?
Well, I think that's one of the reasons na maaari natin siguro tignan dito na kung bakit talaga siya nag-step down. Number one, syempre kapag ikaw ay nakaupo pa rin and you still have direct control and influence over your constituents and of course the members of the House, which comprises the majority, mahihirapan talaga na magkaroon ng impartial investigation. Dahil syempre, nandyan ka mahirap na gawin yon because you still hold sway and you still have the influence directly or indirectly to the people in the lower house, so to speak, no? Pero ngayon na uaalis ka na, 'di ba? Yung conflict of interest pwedeng mawala yon. At the same time, the impression in the public that mas magiging maayos yung direction ng investigation, because you're no longer in power maganda yung maganda somehow yung magiging impression, at mas maganda talaga na syempre maipatawag siya dito sa mga magaganap na padinig, particularly of the Independent Truth Commission, because siya isa sa mga nababanggit, no, dito sa issue na to. And it could also be a good venue for him to be able to clarify his name, just in case he really does not have any direct involvement in this scandal or in this fiasco. It may be an opportune time for him to also air his side as well.
Okay, now let's talk about Congressman Faustino D. III, Congressman Boji D. Nabanggit mo na kanina, he's a party mate of the president, and he is also known as a close ally of the current speaker, Speaker Martin Romualdez. But what do you think of him leading the House of Representatives? Do you think meron ba siyang moral ascendancy to lead the House of Representatives while it is facing this scandal?
Well, I think it's a very, very precarious moment for him to assume the position, especially right now that the lower house is facing this debacle, so to speak, and that the morale that many of our congressmen actually have is quite low at the moment. But, I think Congressman D, in fairness, has been in politics for quite a long time already. And nakita naman natin how he was able to rise from being a congressman and eventually being a governor and a vice governor, and that he was able naman to perform I think quite well, no? Although there are some allegations nga with regards to his leadership capabilities, but this is something that we have yet to see. Kasi by matter of ascendancy or succession, he was a deputy speaker, and I think yun po pwede naman talaga siyang maging eventual speaker because of the position that he currently has. No? Yeah.
But of course, ito namang si Congressman D ay hindi rin naman siya exempt doon sa mga allegations of corruption in the past. And at the same time, he's a member of a huge political dynasty in Isabela. So, should we expect a change in the House? And siguro sa kultura, sa politika, sa loob ng House of Representatives, kung may ganito rin naman siyang reputation?
Yun po that is something that we will try to see in the coming days because to actually judge him right now based solely on his previous experience or his image or reputation generally, I think it's quite parang giving him some kind of injustice as well, no. Pero yun nga binabanggit ko lang na sana magamit niya itong pagbabago na to to reset the House. I think he really has a great deal of responsibility of his shoulders at the moment to uplift the current morale of the congressman, which I believe is currently being dampened to a very big extent right now because of what's happening. And yun sana sa akin any kind of leadership change naman is always a fresh start. It's always a good reset, so to speak. And maaari niya itong magamit para to turn things around. Although the impression on the public eye, hindi natin maiaalis yun that he was a handpicked speaker and that he was just delegated. There was really no consensus among them as to who is the rightful person. But he was there at the right place at the right time, and the president chose him. Maaring yun yung magiging impression natin. Pero sana despite and in spite of that, magamit niya pa rin ito para to turn things around and come up with better legislative agenda.
Prof, alam naman natin na it's a numbers game pagdating sa House of Representatives, and it's out of our hands kung sino ang magiging leader ng House of Representatives. Pero kung kayong tatanungin, sino ba ang ideal dapat na maging speaker ng House of Representatives? Except of course sa mga members ng minority, because they don't have the number.
Well, very, very difficult to actually to point exactly. Pero sa akin kasi kinakailangan din kasi itong issue na kinakaharap natin ngayon is really divisive at the moment. And I think may mga tao naman talaga who have been very vocal about their sentiments about this flood control, kaya lang they themselves they don't want to be part of the short list, like Congressman Toby Chanco.
Yes.
Pero sa akin may mga ilan talaga na sa tingin ko may mga kakayahan din naman, kaya lang karamihan sa kanila nasa minority bloc, and it's going to be very hard for them to muster enough numbers to be able to ascend to the speakership, no. Pero kinakailangan din kasi rito yung I think it's a right mix of experience, age, enough leverage, especially with the consolidation ng mga kaalyado doon sa mababang kapulungan. Syempre kailangan din diyan yung seniority, I think, the experience. Lahat ito magiging factors, no? Pero sa akin marami pa rin naman na maayos na pwedeng pumalit, Congressman Albi Benitez could be one. He has the numbers, I guess. Sino pa ba, no? Siguro Congressman Ungab, for instance, could be another, no? Congressman Alvarez, perhaps, no? And actually, marami naman, I think the House is never lacking in terms of brilliance and in terms of political firepower. But then again, it's different when you are at the right place at the right time.
Prof, si Congressman Kiko Barzaga nagpe-presenta. He will nominate himself daw as a replacement to Speaker Romualdez. What's your reaction?
Well, yeah, I really admire Congressman Barsaga, no? The ability of this Gen Z congressman of ours from Cavite to actually go up against these political giants in the Congress, no? But I don't think at this point in time he has enough leverage, to be able to mount a good run in for the speakership. At the same time, I mean, people may look at him relatively as very young, no? Kasi yung pagiging seasoned is something kasi that we also need to see, because hindi naman biro ang magiging hamon dito sa lower house, especially if you're going to lead more than 300 people, no, in the Congress. It's going to be very, very hard, no? So maaring he has the makings, no, but right now I'm not seeing that this is the right time for him to become the speaker at the moment, because he's still relatively young, I believe, and long way to go actually for him. But pero he definitely has the ability, but definitely not at this time.
All right, but kanina binabanggit mo kasi na itong issue ng flood control at yung involvement ng ating mga government official is a very divisive topic, ano? And itong WR numero, naglabas kasi siya ng survey, nagpapakita noong changes, ano, doon sa factional partisanship ng mga Pilipino. And it says, i-rundown ko lang mabilis, Prof, no? 29% ngayon ang sinasabing sila ay maka-Duterte. That's down by 11% from April 2025. Yung mga sinasabing maka-Marcos sila, 19%, tumaas ng 4%. Ito namang sinasabing sila ay maka-oposisyon, 16%. No, na tumaas din by 3%. Pero ang glaring dito, Prof, ngayon is sinasabi nila na 36% na wala sa nabanggit yung sinusuportahan nila. Do you think this issue will have an impact dito sa sa factional partisanship ng mga Pilipino in the coming days?
Well, definitely, and I think what we're seeing here is that there's really this brewing sentiment, no, na kung saan kung makikita natin itong mga ikakasan ng mga kilos protesta, ng mga malakihang paggalaw, no, in the coming days. I think the sentiment is that it should be something that is to be born out of the desire of each and every Filipino to commit and to fight for justice, not for any political color, not for any particular candidate, or not for any particular political personality, but they need to do it because they want to obtain justice because of what they felt was really something that was unrightfully and unjustly done unto them, and particularly this money that was stolen from the coffers of the country. These are taxpayers' money, to begin with, and so I think we're moving towards that trajectory we're seeing more and more people becoming more in tune with the fact that they're doing this because they love the country more than they love any political personality.
Pero ito bang mga protestang ito, Prof, ay makakabuti o makakasama sa imahe ng Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr.?
Well, any kind of protest, is a manifestation of dissent. And the core consideration here is why are they going out in the streets, no? And what is the reason for coming up with this kind of a political unrest or this kind of political movement? Yes, we have a lot of problems in the past, and I think the president has experienced this, like inflation, among others, but nothing of that magnitude was able to consolidate the public to be able to really, make them go out in the streets and to come up with a big protest. So it shows that the public perception regarding this issue is that it's really big. It's so immense to the point that the public really would want to have a stand in this issue, and definitely this will take a big toll on the part of the president. That is why I think the optics that he's trying to project is that he is one with the public in this case. Now, actually, he even made mention that he would want to join the protest. No, so to give the impression that he is not against any of this protest, but on the bigger picture, kasi ang titignan natin dito is ano ba talaga yung nangyari at bakit hindi ito na contain at na control ng pangulo doon sa kanyang level, no, when in fact this, I think, happened right in his own watch. No, it happened within the executive department in the DPWH, and it is supposed to be something that he has direct knowledge about. No, so doon pa lang makikita natin na merong kakulangan din on the part of the president, and that this rallies, that na ikinakasa na pinapahintulutan naman ng ating pangulo is I think a democratic practice. Pero yun nga, yung laki at yung lawak at yung magnitude ng maaring maging impluwensya nito, yun ang titignan natin in the coming days.
Okay, so of course optics is one thing, political will is another, Prof. And of course accountability, ito yung hinihingi ng taong bayan ngayon. And sinasabi mo nga, if President Marcos may knowledge siya, and this happened under his watch, what can happen? No? Ano bang dapat gawin? And siya mismo ba dapat panagutin din sa mga usaping ito?
Well, sa akin kasi, kung titignan natin, halimbawa, kung ikukumpara natin doon sa allegations ng extrajudicial killing na sinasabi nating may command responsibility si President Duterte doon sa nangyari, at inamin naman yan, na meron siya talagang direct responsibility about it, I don't see any reason why this cannot be applied here in this regard, particularly with the President, because this happened, within his administration, and this happened under his supposedly, his government. And siguro kinakailangan din natin makita by virtue of direct or indirect involvement kung meron din ba siya talagang kinalaman dito sa issue na to. I'm not saying that he is also supposed to be investigated, pero kasi yung tinatawag natin kasing principle of accountability, yung tinatawag natin that the buck ends here, it should extend up to the highest level. And if the president really is decisive enough in manifesting the tenets of good governance, then I think accountability is one of the parameters by which he will be judged later on, regarding his administration. And I hope, and I think right now naman that the president, in fairness, is trying to be more accountable. He's open to investigations. At the same time, he's allowing these movements to actually take place, and he is not putting a stop into this mass actions. And I think that paints a good picture somehow of the president. But in terms of accountability, I think it should extend all the way to the topmost echelons of the government.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Froilan Calilong, for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much, and you have a blessed day ahead.
Leadership in Congress is more than a position. It is a responsibility to govern and a power that shapes the nation's future. Every alliance forged, every decision made reflects move towards direction and accountability. Be timely informed, be insightful of the news. Always stay at the forefront. Join us again tomorrow for insights on issues that matter. On behalf of Attorney Karen Jimeno, this is George Cahiles. Thank you for spending your hour with us.